Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today? Kabarnya baik? Yeah, welcome to the Concert Hall of Indonesia Institute of the Arts Yogyakarta and this wonderful event presented by House of Piano dan Steinway Indonesia berkolaborasi dengan Institut Seni Indonesia Yogyakarta. Hari ini kita akan berbincang dalam sebuah talk show interaktif yang menghadirkan Miyuji Kaneko, the Steinway artist. Tepuk tangan dulu untuk Miyuji Kaneko, please come to the stage and join us. On? Clip-onnya mungkin boleh dinyalakan, Mas. So today we are very honored to host the Steinway talk show with none other than the internationally acclaimed Steinway artist Miyuji Kaneko. Thanks to House of Piano and Steinway Indonesia for making this event possible to be held in the wonderful Concert Hall of Indonesia Institute of the Arts Yogyakarta. In this afternoon, we will talk a lot about your experience and your art practice on piano and especially on Steinway instance. Okay, maybe I start with the most questionable questions.
So first of all, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for coming. Really nice to see you here in Yogyakarta. I was happy to have the opportunity to be here. This is my really first time.
Your very first time?
Yes.
How's the weather? Great? Warm?
It's great.
Too warm? Is it too warm?
No, it's fine, I think, for now.
And the food? Are you okay with the food?
Yes.
Okay.
Very delicious. Very spicy, but very delicious.
Okay, good to hear that. Yeah. All right. So there is a question that is in the Google form from a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And one of the questions that is mostly asked is, when did you first fall in love with piano? I mean, like, people want to know how the journey started, how the journey began. Was there a moment or person that made you feel like, okay, this is what I really want to do?
It was exactly like that.
Okay.
The very first contact for me with the piano or piano music was at my age of 2. Yes, I was like this. And there was a professional pianist from Hungary, the country Hungary in Europe. His name was Zoltán Kocsis. He already passed away. But he was a great pianist and a great conductor and also a composer. And the very first connection for me with the piano music was his playing. He was playing music on a CD. And my Hungarian grandmother, because maybe you realize my mother is Hungarian, my father is Japanese, so that's my mother's mother, grandmother, brought this CD from Hungary to Japan, where I was born. And she put on the CD player, she pressed the play button, and immediately when I heard the very first piece of this CD of Maestro Zoltán Kocsis playing the piano, I fall in love with the music. It was like 20 seconds. And I realized that, oh my goodness, I was 2 years old, of course, but as a 2 years old kid still could realize immediately that, oh, this is something fantastic. And I really love this sound. At that time, I didn't even realize that it is a piano because I didn't know those kind of things as a 2-year-old kid. But I felt something very special at the moment when I heard this music. So probably it was the magic of the pianist, Mr. Zoltán Kocsis. Also, it was a magic of a piano what was used on that recording. It was a same Steinway & Sons piano in that recording what Mr. Zoltán Kocsis was using because he was also a Steinway artist. And the music he played, I can play it now for you actually.
Yes, please. We would like to listen.
Okay, first listen to the piece.
Yeah,
this was the piece which I have listened to in my life for the very first time, and I fall in love with the piano.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much.
This piece is written by a Hungarian composer called Bartók, Béla Bartók. He is a composer from the 20th century. And the piece, the title of the piece, is called For Children. There is a book, Bartók, For Children, and this is the first piece of that book of music. And because of this title, For Children, my Hungarian grandmother bought this CD to her grandson to listen for some Hungarian piano music for children. And this was the very first piece. And after I listened to this very first piece, I always wanted to listen only to this first piece. I didn't care of the other pieces in the CD. I always asked my grandmother to play the first piece. I think we played this first piece on the CD player like 300 times a day, like that.
Yeah. So do you think the early years to introduce good music, well-curated music for the kids,
Yes,
it's important to
I
gain
think
their
so.
interest, right?
Because in my case, it
Yes.
worked actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, but of course, it has to be a fine performance, a world-class performance. The pianist was a fantastic person. It has to be in a good style of recording.
Yes.
It has to be on a clear
sound.
piano with a good sound, probably, because it was not a live performance. It was just a CD. But even for that, I think the quality was very important.
Okay, the quality, the curated music,
Yes.
and the sound quality, the recordings,
Exactly.
and yeah, in the very early age, right?
Yes, and of course, I'm not sure that, or I'm sure that it's not working for every
Yes.
2-year-old kid, because every kid has a different, channel to
perception.
yes, to what is he or she interested in. I was interested in piano music, and we met.
All right. So once you got interested into these pieces, the piano, and then you
Yes.
start learning as a student, right? When was the turning point? Like when you shift from student? No, I'm an artist.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not just a student, but I'm a professional artist.
It was much later. It was, I think, when I was 18 years old. In Hungary, it's the time of finishing the high school. Even in Japan, I don't know, probably in Indonesia is the same for the age, 18. And till that, actually, I was studying the piano from my age of 6 to 18. Because before the age of 6, I actually started to play the piano when I was 3. So just a year after when I fall in love with piano music, but I just played for myself. I didn't have a teacher, or we didn't go to a music school or something. For like 3 years, for the age of 3, 4, and 5, I was just playing the piano by heart, by ear. I couldn't read scores yet. But from age of 6, I moved to Hungary, to my mother's country, without my parents. So my parents were still living in Japan. And I left my parents and I went to my Hungarian grandparents' house. And I started to study there as a Hungarian kid, half Hungarian kid. And started to play the piano, study the piano in Hungary when I was 6 years old. So it was like first grade of elementary school. And I was studying in Hungary for a elementary music school for 5 years. And after the 5 years of elementary music school, I entered a music academy with skipping grades. The academy is called the Franz Liszt Academy of Music. This is named from the composer Franz Liszt. And I was studying there also for 5 years in this National University Academy of Music in Budapest, the capital in Hungary. And after finishing my studies at the Liszt Academy in Hungary, I was 16 years old at that time. And I had to think, because I finished all the curriculums in Hungary, I had to think what to do next. And usually that time, people from Europe, from Hungary, if they really wanted to be a professional classical musician, usually students, people, were continuing their studies in famous European or maybe American music academies, like the Juilliard Academy in New York, the Conservatoire in France, or the Royal Academy in London, or something like that. But this was in 2006. That time in Hungary, we didn't have internet yet. Probably you didn't have in 2006. And nowadays, it's very easy with your smartphone or iPhone or laptop to search if you want to continue your studies in London or in Paris or in New York, what to do. Maybe you can search for some scholarships. You can search for the schedule, how to prepare, when is the entrance examination, and those kind of things. But in 2006, it was not possible. And I didn't know what to do. And I was just waiting my graduation in Hungary, and I didn't know what to do next. And then I got a phone call from Japan, my other country, from a TV company, actually, that they found me somehow, and they would like to invite me back to Japan to organize a professional debut as a pianist. And they want to give me some kind of like scholarship and those kind of things. And I said, it's interesting. I have never thought before about going back to Japan, because as a classical musician, I didn't feel that it can be a good way of continue the studies. However, at the same time, as a human being, not as a musician, but as a human being, I had a homesick to Japan. I really wanted to go back to Japan because I have never studied in a Japanese school. I was living in Hungary for almost 10 years without my family, and I had so many difficulties actually during that time. I missed really, really the great Japanese food, actually, and those kind of things. And I decided to go back to Japan for a while to try something else. And I went back to Japan. I tried to negotiate with that TV company about my debut. And actually, I found out that this TV company wasn't so nice, so I asked them not to make my official debut. I said goodbye to the TV company, but I still stayed in Japan, and that was my original plan, actually. I entered again a music academy in Japan, in Tokyo. And I was studying there for 2 years, and then we have the answer. I became 18-year-old, and I had to decide what to do next. Do I really have to be a professional musician or not? Because after going back to Japan and after starting my studies in Japan, I figured it out that this is not easy to manage a life as a musician. There are so many students studying music, studying the piano, not only in Hungary, also in Japan, but also all around the world, and everybody wants to be a professional musician. And it's a terrible feeling that you know, thinking of every day about the fact that you have so many competitors around the world, and even as a student you have no chance to play in front of people. Just go to the school, take the piano lessons, take the exams. Maybe you can apply for some competitions. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not working, but you have no chance. Nobody invites you to play in front of people. There are no chance to, you know, make CDs or be in the television. And I didn't know what to do next. And then I had to decide, should I continue my life as a professional musician or not? And then I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and I got an idea. Maybe as a half Japanese and a half Hungarian, with this double identity, I am half Asian and half European, maybe I can be a musician. What kind of musician we have never had before? What I mean is to connect continents, countries, identities, people around the world because of my double identity. Maybe sometimes I can give some ideas to Europeans. Maybe sometimes I can show things to the Asians because I have both of my identities. And from that time, I started to think about what can I do for the people, not for myself, for the people, for you, for you, for you, as a pianist, as a musician, as a double identity human being. And that made me happy with this feeling to start thinking about, oh, maybe I can be, really can be a professional musician and try to help people with my music, my performance, my imagination, ideas, and those kind of things. And I decided to choose not easy, but the way to be a professional musician. And from that day, I started to work very hard for this.
Wow, amazing story. So I highlight that maybe in the early years, on your early age, it's about your interest to the music piano. But I believe that for you to achieve this level, it's not just interest anymore. There must be a lot of discipline and the things.
Definitely
maybe you can
not.
share about the journey, the hardship, and the things, the support system, your routine that makes you able to achieve this level.
Yes. Actually, I have many, not many, but I have some routines as a pianist. One of my routines, I cannot share it now, but I can tell you about it. It's very easy. One of my routines is take a music sheet, a score. Just open up and read my score as a book. I don't play the piano, I don't practice at all. Just in my mind, I open up the score and just reading the notes, like a book, like a story. And I really like practicing in my mind like this, because it gives you a totally different view of the music, actually. And you can do it anywhere. You don't have a piano, it's okay. You can do it on the airplane. You can do it on Garuda, Indonesia, when you're on the flight, and you can see, and you can still practice in mind when you don't even have a score, it's okay. Now on your smartphone, you can see on PDF files. And this is one routine, and this gives a special connection for me with the piano. But I can show you some technical routines. I usually start my piano playing every day with a Johann Sebastian Bach piece, because I believe that the music, what we nowadays call classical music, starts about from Bach. So Bach was an iconic image of the music, especially the classical music history. And I always love to start playing the piano every day with a short Bach piece. It can be anything, but maybe today I was starting to play the piano with this piece. I can show you.
so much.
And actually, why do I start my day like this? Because for us classical pianists, the image of Johann Sebastian Bach is much more than just a composer. He's like one of the gods, or how can I say? He's like a god for us, you know. The absolute image of a special person. And immediately, if I sit down to the piano and I start playing a short Bach piece like this is actually a Bach piece called French Suite Number 5. This is the first movement of the French Suite. I feel something very special in my heart, in my mind. One thing is, I can say thank you to Johann Sebastian Bach with playing his music, and I can say a big thank you to Bach that I can be here today in Jakarta, in this beautiful building, with this beautiful piano, in this fantastic facility. And it's like a praying, you know, just saying thank you to God, Johann Sebastian Bach, that I can be here and I can play his music. And also his music has a very special taste of interpretation that gives you a very relaxed mood, happiness. I feel very comfortable when I play a Bach piece, actually. So that's why every day I start my piano playing with a Bach piece. And this is not about, you know, religions or these kind of things. This is just a procedure as a musician. And why am I talking about this? Because actually I have a specific theme, what I would like to talk to you today. Of course, we have other questions, I know, but still, between those questions, we have enough time, fortunately. Is the thing that, have you ever think about why do we, human beings, living in our century, the 21st century, why do we really have music? And why do we need to have music in our everyday life? We have so many kinds of music. We have classical music, we have pops, we have rock, we have jazz, you have gamelan, we have many, many kinds of music. But why? Have you ever think about it? Actually, I do think about it every day. And of course, there is no one correct answer or no correct answers, but we have to think about it, especially when we are studying music or we are starting to study music or we are musicians. We have to think about it every day. Why do we have music? Why do we need to have music? And this is a big question, especially now in our century, when we have all the kind of technologies. We have AIs, it's coming, it's increasing, it's growing. We have AIs, we have robots, we have all the technologies, computers, supercomputers, everything. We have smartphones, we have ChatGPT, we have everything. Google, YouTube, many kind of things. But we still have music, live music. We still have or need music in everyday life. And from now, for our generation who wish to be a musician or a pianist or want to study music, we really have to think about what are the things what we can do on an instrument, on a piano, on a violin, on a cello, as a singer. What are the facts, what are the things what AI and technology cannot do, but we can do as a human being on a live performance? And in my opinion, there is one very important thing what we can do and AI cannot do. This thing is our mind and our heart. We need to admire the music the composers, the greatest composers like Bach, like Mozart, like Beethoven, like Chopin. And we have to reproduce, provide these fantastic musical treasures from the past of our history, because most of the greatest composers were living 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. But we still have these music because of the scores, the music sheets, and we have to provide these musical treasures to the people living nowadays. And this is not about perfection of technique. And this is not about how fast you can play the piano, or how correctly you can play the piano, or how loudly you can play the piano, or how many followers you have on YouTube, or how many gold medals you won on a competition. This is not about that. This is about your mind, how you proceed, how you provide the music, how you connect yourself with the music. And I think this is one very important thing what we really need to think about urgently, because the technology is growing very, very quickly. So we have to really make a clear view that what do we have to do as a human being, musician in the future.
Yeah, so it's like bringing the root of creative practice before we implement the technologies further.
Exactly.
Through the AI and anything else to understand the root of the creativity. And before you talk a lot about the mental, the mind, your emotion. And actually I have great interest on your mental reading about the scores.
Yes.
So basically when you read the music scores, what are you doing in your mind? Are you make the sound, or you imagine the movement of your fingers, or you imagine the expression that you're going to produce through the scores?
Actually, everything what you have just mentioned, but at the end, so I love to read several times the same score, actually. So I read one time, in that time, in my mind, I'm training my fingers. Second time, I try to believe how it could sound. A third time, maybe I try to think about my emotions or expressions, what I can put in this music. And fourth time, I try to imagine how did the composer felt when he was writing this piece, or what was his idea, or maybe what was in his mind when he was composing this piece. So it's like a image training for myself. What if I cannot be, but what if I am Mozart or if I am Beethoven and composing this piece? What was in my mind, maybe? It's interesting to think like that about music.
So I believe that your way to approach piano music is more than the technical issues, but it is more about the emotion on how you try to make it as an expression of human being. And I believe that there are a lot of piano teachers maybe here. Maybe you can say something that might help their students to develop the sense of emotion or expressing music since from the early age.
I can show some things, or maybe I can tell some things about this. Maybe we can do a small test, not a test actually. I can show you something even for piano teachers, even for piano students, or even for guests who are just interested in piano music. It can be very clear to imagine what I am talking about actually. I will play again a Johann Sebastian Bach piece, a very short one called the Prelude number 1 from the Well-Tempered Clavier Book number 1. I will play this piece 3 times in 3 different versions. And first, please listen to these 3 different versions of these short Johann Sebastian Bach pieces. Then I will ask you to raise your hands. Which version did you like the most? The first, the second, or the third one? And at the end, I will explain you what are the versions about. Why are they different, and what was in my mind, and why did I play it in different ways? So we can we do this?
Yes. Sure.
So let's play this Bach piece 3 times in 3 totally different styles. So the So, it's now your turn. We had 3 totally different versions, right? Raise hands who liked the first version the most. No one? No one? It's good to know. Okay, thank you. Who liked the second version the most? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. Okay, 5, 6. All right, thank you. And who liked the third version the most? Whoa. I love you, Indonesia. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so let me explain. The first version was an interpretation I would call the AI robotic piano performance of Bach. And why? Because if you open up this piece, this score, you immediately realize that there are no indications for tempos, there are no indications for phrasings, there are no indications for dynamics. So if an AI robot reads the score, it will sound like this, for sure, because there are no indications, and the AI don't know what to do about it. The second version is called, or can be called, the social media pianist version of Bach playing. We can say it YouTube pianist or TikTok pianist, or I don't know what kind of things. And why? Because when you want to be a real superstar on the social media with many followers and millions of likes, and you want to be a millionaire for the income with YouTube or TikTok or something, then there is only one way of business what you need to do. The thing what you need to make clear is to be different from others. And for this, you need to provide funny things sometimes, interesting things sometimes, extreme things sometimes. But in any way, you have to be totally different from other performances. And for that, we usually never play Johann Sebastian Bach's piece like that. But I can easily imagine that if a YouTuber tried to make millions of incomes from a Bach performance, he should or he may play like this because he wants to be different from others. And the third version I should call Steinway artist, pianist Miyuji Kaneko's performance of Bach's music. And that's why I really loved you, that most of you chose the third one. But that's not because of I am playing the music. No, that's the way how I think this music has to be on stage. I am not the composer, so don't know 100% if I am correct or not with the interpretation. But what I can do is think about how would Maestro Johann Sebastian Bach play this piece, his own composition. Maybe if he has a chance to visit ISI Jakarta today and play on this beautiful Steinway & Sons Model C brand new piano here, maybe he would play like this. Or at least I have an admiration to Bach's music, and I try to play the piece as beautiful as I can to provide it to you. So these are the different minds of making interpretation of a same piece. And this is very important to notice that with an interpretation change, sometimes you can make a wonderful music, but sometimes you can, sorry to say, but you can destroy everything with your interpretation. And this is, we have to be very careful with it.
Okay, so about the interpretations, you're known to program your concerts with a very strong narratives. What goes into your process of repertoire selections? And how do you approach expressing the story through your piano music?
actually for the repertoire, the program, what I am playing on concerts, I always try to think about if I am on a stage and I'm welcoming guests like I will welcome tonight as well. I visit many countries, many cities, many towns. I have chance to play in front of many, many people every day. But think about it. In the audience, if we have people in the concert hall like 400 people, 600 people, 800 people, 1,000 people, sometimes 2,000 people, it depends on what country or what city. There are many kind of personalities, many, many kind of backgrounds of the audience. Some of the guests maybe came to my concert, my recital, because he or she just wanted to listen to a very powerful piano music because he or she wanted to get some energy from that. But maybe some of the audience came because he or she had some painful thing happened in his or her life. Maybe he lost somebody in his or her family, or you never know. And she or she just wanted to come to your concert to make his mind a bit relaxed, just to listen to live music, to make him or himself a little bit happy or something. Or maybe there is a guest who was just was staying in a hospital for like months, and finally she can come out from the hospital, and this is her first time to go out for a concert. So they never know. There are many, many people, and I always try to think about how can I satisfy all my guests coming to the concert. So I try to put powerful piano pieces as well as very sensitive piano music, sometimes a very sad, emotional piece, sometimes a very romantic piece, sometimes a very cute piece, sometimes a very happy piece. So many, many characters, feelings. Through the music, maybe I can touch all of you with these compositions and try to make people feeling more relaxed and more happy during the concert time. And the other thing, why I actually like to talk a lot in front of people on my recitals, because I believe that some of my guests are maybe professionals, piano teachers, students, piano players, but some of the guests are not. And everybody has the right to enjoy a musical performance, especially the pieces I am playing on a concert, with the acknowledge and the knowing the background of the pieces. Everybody has the right to know about the composers. Everybody has the right to know about the background. Why did this piece was composed by the composer? What was the original mind? Why Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin composed a specific piece? And I believe that if people understand the background, or the people can learn about composers or piano pieces, or even about the piano as an instrument, then everybody can enjoy the performance more, like just sitting on the seat and just listening to the next piece, the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. Sometimes it can be a little bit boring if you don't have enough background to understand things. So I feel it very important to talk to the people, to make it more clear, to have a total view of a music performance. And I think it's important, especially nowadays.
It seems like emotion is the prominent variable in your piano music. Do you ever try to make an emotion roller coaster through your repertoire selection?
Yes, actually.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And
yes.
do you tend to pick a particular repertoire when you practice daily based on your mood, or?
I like to choose, yes, based on my mood, because it is not so comfortable to play a very happy piece when you are in a bad mood. You know, we are human beings. We are not AIs. So
you enhance your sadness, for example, when you're sad, you enhance it with super sad
yes,
repertoire,
actually.
yeah.
when I lost somebody in my family, I won't play a happy Mozart piece for sure. Yes, I probably prefer to play something like this. It's more comfortable for me if I have a sad moment in my life to play. And also there is one more thing, what also is about the same thing of interpretations, that nowadays we have to think about what type of musicians do we really have to be? Especially for the students, I think it's an important fact to think about. I think there are two ways of being a musician nowadays. Only two, we can say. You can be a musician, an artist at the same time, and a creator. And this is one type of being a musician. An artistic creator musician. But the other type of musician is more like producer, provider, and interpreter. And many of the young classical music students thinks that they are going to be creative artists. But I'm not sure it is a correct way of thinking, and I explain you why. Because the answer is very easy. If we are a classical musician, we usually do not compose our own pieces of music. We usually play the pieces which are already written 100, 200, 300 years ago by the greatest composers. And in that case, we have to be producers more, providers more, and interpreters more to produce, I can say reproduce, reproduct, yes, interpret and provide like a time machine. We had this music 200 years ago, and I am the one who reproduce, provide, and interpret these fantastic musical works to you who are here right now in our century. But if you think that you are an artist, a creative artist, then you have to compose your own music for that. Usually it works in popular music, in the pops, where many of the popular musicians are singer-songwriters. They write their own songs, their own music, and in that case they can do anything. They can do anything, whatever they want to do with their music, because they are the composers. But in our case, we are not real artists. The only artistic part, what we have to do, is to provide or reproduce the original meaning, the original feelings what the composers had many, many years ago. And for this we need an artistic sense and an artistic taste, and also we need creativity and imagination to imagine what might be in the way of Bach's performance or Mozart's performance. For this we need imagination, creativity, and artistic approach, but we are not the real artists. We are false artists. We are just interpreters, producers, and providers. And why is this important to know about? Because I just finished actually judging a competition in Malaysia and in Vietnam. We call the Steinway Youth Piano Competition. And I was listening to so many students playing the piano, very talented ones, very nice performances. But sometimes I when I started to listen to the competitors' performance, I immediately realized that, oh yes, this performance is an artistic work of the specific competitor, and it has nothing to do with the original composer. It was too many ideas, too many extra things coming out from the competitor, which is not a real style of the original composer like Bach or Beethoven or Chopin. And probably this way of interpretation comes from the social media, because nowadays some of the musicians are very famous of making themselves creative artists as a classical musician. But I'm not sure that the composers, the greatest composers, are happy with that way of music making. I'm pretty not sure about it. So maybe even if you are trying to be on a competition, or even if you open a social media channel, I would recommend you that please think about the original composer who composed the piece you are going to play, and please admire that composer, because they were great artists. They were like Leonardo da Vinci, or I don't know, any kind of greatest artist from the history, not only in music, but in music they were the real artists, and we have to admire them. We have to feel honored that we can play their music and we can provide their music to the audience what we have in front of us when we are on stage.
I think this being a very interesting discussion. As you mentioned that as a performer, we already provided the scores, the music, and we are interpreting it to tell the stories to the audience.
Yes.
It seems like we don't have a lot of space to make the creation by ourselves, right? So my question is it possible for us, is it important for us as a performer to find our own characteristic, our own style, our own uniqueness when playing something that is already established in the 200, 300 years ago? And how we can achieve that?
I would say, please don't worry.
Okay.
Because we have a historical way of interpretation, of course, for every piece, especially for the famous pieces. But those historical interpretations are coming from the instructions of the composers. Many of the composers are indicating specific tempos for the piece, specific dynamics, specific phrasings. But even if they don't indicate, like music in Johann Sebastian Bach or from the Baroque period or some classical pieces as well, even in that case, if you play the same piece, or if I play the same piece, or if you play the same piece, don't worry, it will be three different performances, for sure, because we are not the same. Because we are not robots. You are a human being, I am a human being, he is a human being, she is a human being. It will be different for sure. Even if we have a historical background, an image of the specific piece. But we are all trying to approach the best way, how would a composer would be satisfied with the interpretation, but this approach is absolutely different if you do, or I do, or she does, or he does it. So that's a unique way of artistic interpretation, and it's enough for the uniqueness. And that's the only space what we are allowed to do with classical music pieces. The way how we approach the piece is already a unique way, because I am approaching that music, or you are approaching the music.
Okay. Now, you're a Steinway artist.
Yes.
You use Steinway.
Yes.
My question is, how Steinway make you interested in it, as a particle, specifically on the way you express your emotion, the way you express your interpretations through this space. This space.
Actually, my very first time when I played a Steinway piano was when I was a 5 years old kid. We were visiting Hungary, my mother's country, and we were visiting a Hungarian relative's house. And that relative, the wife of the relative, actually was a former piano teacher. She already retired, but she had a very, very old but beautiful Steinway piano, a small one, at home, a brown, very beautiful Steinway piano. It was, I think, built in the late 18th, yes, so like 1890 or something like that. So it was almost like 100 years old instrument at that time. And as a 5-year-old boy who already played a little bit on the piano, we visited this relative for a lunch. And everybody of my family sat to the table and started to eat lunch. And I was the only one who didn't take care anything of the lunch. I just rushed to the piano room and I just wanted to try this beautiful brown Steinway old piano. And I tried it. And it has a beautiful, warm sound. And I immediately fall in love with the Steinway piano, actually. And even as a kid, I did realize that, oh, a Steinway piano has a totally different magic in its sound. And of course now, as a professional pianist, I can still say that a Steinway piano, of course, every Steinway piano has a different character and a different sound because they are all hand-made by piano makers. But still, every piano made by Steinway has its own atmosphere of sounding and all colors what we can use when we are playing on the piano. And these colors of sound make possible to put as much emotions and as much feelings as much as we can or we wish to put on the music. And I can show you some small things, actually. I think I need the microphone together with me, so sorry. It's actually all about imagination. Let me choose you a kind of famous piece. I hope it's also famous in Indonesia. You know this piece? Yeah, it's Für Elise from Beethoven. Yeah, it's famous, right? But even for a piece like this, if we change our mind when we are playing, it can sound totally differently. I show you. I actually like to think about tastes when I am playing on the piano. Like, add some sweet taste to the music. I will play like this. I will add some more salt on it. I will add more spice on it. Indonesian food. I will add some bitter taste. Or, if we don't want to think about tastes, maybe we can think about colors. Like, play the piece golden. black. White. Something like that. It's all about imagination. I didn't do anything very special. I just immediately tried to change my mind when I am playing the piano. And immediately, if I change my mind and I change a little bit of controlling my fingers, then, a Steinway piano answers you with a different color. And it has a huge range of different colors with different soundings: bright, dark, colorful, plain, natural, spicy, sweet, sour, everything. And this is like a palette when you are painting. You have many colors and you can mix it and you can do whatever you wish to do on a piano. And this is a very important thing of playing on a piano, that your instrument, does this instrument has this quality of sound or not? And for me, I'm not saying this because I am an official Steinway artist. I am a Steinway artist because I think like this. I can say that the Steinway is actually, for me, the only piano in the world. Anywhere, if I am in the world, like I am in Dubai, or I am in the United States, or I am in Asian countries, or I'm in Europe, if I find a Steinway piano, maybe it can be in a bad condition, because sometimes it's an old piano, or sometimes it's not maintenance very well, or sometimes it's not tuned very well. But even in that condition, if I start to practice on that specific Steinway piano, I can pull out these colors and these sound effects from the piano if it is a Steinway, even if it's an old one or a new one. And this is my special connection with the Steinway piano. And this was the main reason why I actually said yes when I got the offer from Steinway New York that would you like to be a Steinway artist? And I immediately said yes, 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 because I really love to play on Steinway pianos. But it wasn't easy. First, you have to study in an environment. Especially in my case, I was studying both in a music academy in Hungary and a music academy in Tokyo, and both of these academies has Steinway pianos, even in the lesson rooms or even on stage when you are having exams. And this is one very important thing that you have to be in your background when you are a Steinway artist. The second thing is that you have to be a Steinway owner. It don't depends on it is an old instrument or a new instrument or a used or a new one, but you have to be a Steinway owner. And I actually go to the bank and let some money because I wanted to buy a Steinway instrument. And as a professional pianist, I was paying back this money for years. But I really wanted to be a Steinway owner, not because I wanted to be a Steinway artist, because I really felt the importance of being a Steinway owner and practice on a Steinway piano. It was not easy, I can say it, because unfortunately or fortunately, they are not cheap instruments, but they have the quality of that. And finally, you have to make an examination to be a Steinway artist. You have to make a report and send it to Steinway New York about your feelings of a Steinway piano. And if you pass this final examination, then you can be a Steinway artist. And this happened when I was 20 years old in 2010.
Yeah, so
Yes.
it's important for the students to have the experience in playing an instrument that has the ability of a wide range of musical expressions, right? So
congratulations to the students at EC, because
Jakarta,
now you have wonderful piano, and please don't put it just
as a decoration.
no, it's not.
You have to use it.
Yeah,
You
you have to use it, and the piano will be happy if you play on it. Don't destroy it, of course, but play it wisely on it, and it's good.
Okay, as you said previously that every piano and also every Steinway piano has its own characteristic, its own sound, its own
Yes.
warm and cold sounds. Do you tend to adjust your musical expressions based on the characteristic of the sound of the Steinway that you play?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
So depend on the different characteristic, it will give different outputs of your musical expressions.
Definitely. And the whole thing, what is controlling those kind of changes is your mind. Yes. Everything is coming from there.
Okay, so you already talked to us that you've performed around the world and
Yes.
see how music is taught differently across cultures. What are some changes that you hope to see in how classical music is taught, especially here in Indonesia?
In Indonesia?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, it's difficult to answer because I only heard
This is
like...
your first time?
No, this is
No?
my second time
Your
as a
second time.
pianist, actually. My first time in Jakarta.
Okay.
I was listening to some students last time and this time, and I cannot say an average thing, of course, but maybe talking not only about Indonesia, but maybe we can say in Asia or maybe in Southeast Asia. I feel that first of all, I am very happy that there are many students studying, learning the piano and trying to study more and more of music and piano, and that's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, actually the same story I have just mentioned about the thinking, the way of approaching, and what kind of music he or she wishes to play, or maybe what kind of musician he or she wants to become in the future. And because of this difficult era where we are living now in our century, many things are going on around the world. Unfortunately, we have wars. We just had pandemics. You have volcanoes in Indonesia, and we all have earthquakes in Indonesia and Japan. And we have so many things, disasters and many things. And at the same time, the technology is growing, the everyday life is changing, the societies are changing, the economics are changing. And as a young student, I think it's not easy to imagine about the future, what to do, how to do. But at the same time, I think, please think about and try to focus on learning messages from these fantastic, great composers from the past. Because at the time when they were living, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, they still already had wars, disasters, pandemics. So actually, they had the same problems in their everyday life, but somehow they lived with it. And the most important thing is they didn't stop working with music, and they provided music, and they wrote music, and they were playing music. And this is a message that we can learn from them. And these messages and these thoughts can be very useful in the future. And please don't try to, and this is a message actually, please don't try to focus only on the results of a competition or of an exam or an audition or the result on social media. It's not as important as the whole process, the time you spent with the composer, with the music, with the piano, the time you were practicing, the time where you learning new things, studying new things. And that's the real importance of music studying, the music playing. And it doesn't matter what are the results, because the results are not coming immediately. The results are coming 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, when you become an adult human being living in your time, your society, your country. And even if you are not becoming a musician, maybe you can be a great doctor or a great lawyer or a great businessman or a politician or anyone. But thanks to your musical studies in your childhood or your university time, I'm pretty sure that your way of thinking would be very creative with a lot of imagination because of your musical studies. And this creativity and imagination is definitely useful in any world, even if you're a doctor or a lawyer or a businessman. And this is also one thing what we can probably do better than the AIs in the future. So I wish to hear more and more creative performances, but not artistically creative. Just with the admiration for the composers, but still try to provide the original ideas of the composers creatively. So this is my wish to Asia, Southeast Asia, but maybe in the future for the whole world, because even in Europe, unfortunately, the interpretations of classical music nowadays are changing because of, sorry to say that, because of the competitions and because of the social media, unfortunately. I can say that because I'm a professional pianist and I take the responsibility of what I'm saying, but this is the world now.
Okay, maybe as a wrap up for everyone, I can say that as a Steinway artist now, you're an inspiration for a lot of young pianists, young students that wants to become like you. So, in short, what do you wish to say to them if they want to become like you or to become a professional Steinway artist?
I would say continue challenging. Every day is a challenge. And immediately if you stop challenging, then your career as a musician or as a pianist stops. But if you keep challenging for new things, new pieces, visiting new places, studying at new schools, I don't know, everything is a challenge, then you can be a great musician in the future, for sure. Because people who are challenging, the results are always coming. Maybe 5 years later, 10 years later, but the results are always coming for the people who are challenging.
Alright, thank you so much Miyuji Kaneko. Mungkin bisa tepuk tangan dulu untuk Miyuji Kaneko.
Thank you so much.
Sudah membagi pengalamannya panjang sekali dari kecil sampai sekarang dan diringkas hanya dalam 1 jam. Pasti masih banyak rasa penasaran ya, tetapi semoga kita bisa mendapatkan banyak manfaat dan banyak pelajaran dari insights yang diberikan oleh Miyuji. And to our wonderful audience, we also thank you for your presence and engagement. This marks the end of our talk show. Jadi talk show kita selesai, tetapi rangkaian acara bersama Miyuji Kaneko tidak berhenti karena seperti yang ditunggu-tunggu konser nanti malam. Benar ya? Okay, so we will invite all of you here to return to this concert hall at 7 p.m. tonight for an unforgettable solo concert performance by Miyuji Kaneko right here in this concert hall.
I will returning for sure.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Oke, tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk Miyuji Kaneko. Terima
kasih.
kasih.
Terima kasih. Thank you.
Please be seated. And of course, we would like to deliver our greatest gratitude to House of Piano dan Steinway Indonesia yang memungkinkan kita untuk didatangin oleh Steinway artist sampai ke Jogja. Kalau saya nggak salah di pertama kalinya ada Steinway artist datang ke ISI ya, iyalah karena Steinway & Sons-nya baru ada sekarang gitu ya. Jadi tepuk tangan sekali lagi juga untuk House of Piano and Steinway Indonesia. Terima kasih. Sampai jumpa nanti jam 7 malam. Selamat sore.